Cyberpunk 2077 is out now on Nintendo Switch 2. So how does it run and how does it compare with other devices like the Steam Deck? Let's dive in. First, let's get technical. How you experience Cyberpunk 2077 on Switch 2 depends on which mode you're playing it in and also how you're playing it. When your Switch 2 is docked, there are two different graphical modes available: performance and quality. Performance prioritizes frame rate over resolution, whilst quality mode prioritizes visuals over frame rate. In performance mode, when docked, Cyberpunk 2077 runs at 1080p and targets 40 FPS, with the frame rate being uncapped. Now, in quality mode, when docked, it again runs at 1080p, but the frame rate is capped at 30 FPS, with the game targeting 30 FPS. Now, let's look at both modes side by side. What you can see here, in my opinion, is very negligible differences between both modes graphically, so I prefer performance mode for that reason, as you get the smoother experience and slightly higher frame rate. You really do have to start pixel peeping to the max in order to spot any real differences when you're actively playing the game. There's maybe a small difference in sharpness, shadows, lighting here and there, but unless you're really looking, it's going to be pretty hard to spot. Where you can see a difference is when V looks in the mirror right at the start of a new game. There's slightly more fuzziness in the performance mode, maybe due to the type of DLSS being used or the type of mode, and you can see the added sharpness in quality mode, but that's about it, guys. They're very similar between the two. Now, let's compare the Switch 2 in performance mode with the Steam Deck running at 1080p resolution when docked. We set the Steam Deck to the Steam Deck graphics preset and FSR3 in balance mode, and personally, although they are pretty close, I prefer the Switch 2. I think the image looks less grainy, I think it looks slightly sharper, and probably slightly smoother too in terms of average frames, although it's hard to say definitively without an FPS counter on Switch 2, but let me know which you think looks better. I prefer the Nintendo Switch 2, but let me know what you think. Let's talk about the handheld experience now, and on Switch 2 in quality mode, the game runs at 1080p resolution, targeting 30 FPS, and it's also locked to 30 FPS too. While in performance mode, it runs at 720p resolution, but with the frame rate limit unlocked, aiming for 40 frames per second. And it's here you can see a clear difference in image quality, which you would expect considering the resolution differences. The DLSS AI upscaling is far more noticeable in performance mode, in my opinion, with more artifacting and just generally more fuzzy image. But in terms of frame rate, both modes felt pretty consistent and smooth. So I'd say the 40 and 30 FPS claimed is about right in these modes. And personally, I prefer playing on quality mode when on handheld just for the added sharpness. But performance mode is also a good option for players who want smoother gameplay. I will also say that when traveling at super high speeds, I did get the game to chug a little bit even when docked, so that's something to be wary of as it's loading a lot of textures at once. I would also mention that the crowd density is low, about the same as the Steam Deck preset, but it's a lot lower than you would get on consoles or PC, and compared to those platforms, it does feel significantly more empty. Now let's compare how the handheld experience with the Switch 2 compares to the Steam Deck. With the Steam Deck running at 1280 by 800, which is the screen's native resolution, and as you can see by the side-by-sides, even with the Switch 2 running in performance mode at 720p, in my opinion, the game looks much better on Nintendo's console and also has the frame rates to match too. Maybe not in the highs, but definitely more consistent frame rates with the Switch 2. And for me, there's just no comparison about which is the better experience for the two, and I much prefer playing this game on Switch 2 rather than the Steam Deck. But if you think the Steam Deck looks better, let me know in the comments. And for those who are watching this on a TV or a monitor and thinking the Switch 2 footage doesn't look great, remember, you're going to be playing this on a 7.9-inch HDR capable display, and trust me, it looks great at that size. Overall, I think CD Projekt Red have done a great job optimizing this AAA title to run on Nintendo's latest console. The idea that Cyberpunk 2077 could run on a Nintendo console at all, even just a few years ago, would have been ridiculous. So the fact that it's running at this level of performance is a superb achievement, and it is a good experience on this console in my opinion, even in handheld mode. It's certainly playable. Now, obviously, if you're running this game on a current gen console or a more expensive gaming handheld or even a PC, you're going to get much better performance. But for those who want to experience third-party games on Switch 2 for the first time, you can now experience games like Cyberpunk 2077 on this platform. And if this game can run on this console, the world really is its oyster for Nintendo and all of the major game developers out there. I mean, where's Call of Duty, Microsoft? We're waiting. Now, here's some more gameplay side by side so you can take a look at it in more detail. But if you enjoyed this video, get subscribed and drop a like. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.